Today is not the review that we would expect to be making right now. I mean, we have the Browning X-Bolt 2 coming out, like starting to hit shelves now. We have SIG's new Sawtooth and 7 PRC on the SIG Cross platform that we're excited to review. Taurus has its new gun coming out. There is Christensen's Evoque I'm excited to see for this year. But today we're not reviewing a new gun at all. We're reviewing a gun that came out 3 years ago. And the reason is because it's been sorely overlooked. It's a gun we've never reviewed because of one specific reason. One reason that I just said, no, not this one. But I was wrong. And today we're about to put it through its paces. The gun is this. It is the Sako S20. This is in the Hunter configuration with a thumb hole stock that I just love. It also has an incredible action. This is the best action in a production firearm. Period. That's it. The reason we had to review this gun is because Garrett and I we've been just gushing over this thing, haven't we? This is the Sako 90, and it blew away our every expectation for a rifle. And so when we saw its little brother, its little much less expensive brother on the shelf, we knew we had to give it a try. Today we're putting it through its paces on Backfire. We're gonna go straight to the accuracy. I know that's what you guys wanna see first of all, and so I'm not gonna keep you waiting. We sighted the gun in and we shot 2 groups right off the bat. I haven't even broken this barrel in. First group was 0.49. Second group was 0.40. We're going to try it out with 2 to 3 different types of ammo and just see what this thing does. I have a feeling that this is going to be a very, very boring accuracy segment because nothing interesting happens with the Sakos. I'm telling you, every time we get a Sako in, it shoots like... It feels like most rifles these days are shooting about a minute. Sometimes a minute and a quarter. Sometimes a minute and a half. But the Sakos, they're just that top tier of accuracy where you're near that half minute. And let's see if we can bear it out. We're going to show every single group. We're not, we want to show you every single thing that it does. Yep, that's a half-inch group again. This gun is crazy. Last up, we're shooting this Federal Premium ammo. This is using the 130 grain Terminal Ascent bullet. I've really wanted to hunt with this bullet for a while. It's very interesting, but it's been extremely hard to get for the last couple years. Just recently have I found them around. The interesting thing about it is you're getting a copper shank and then a bonded lead core. And so you have the shank that's really going to penetrate, and then everything's going to explode here at the front. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. It's a very interesting design. Oh, I kind of rushed that. Now, before we look at those groups, I want to set the stage a little bit. If you've watched a lot of Backfire videos, you will have seen our 1 MOA hoax videos. If you just search on YouTube 1 MOA hoax, you'll see both of those videos. We spent 5 days in each one of those videos trying to find a shooter that could just produce a 1 MOA group. And these are just your average shooters. It was everybody. We saw $6,000 custom guns and very experienced shooters. We saw a whole lot of new guys and just your average just shooter. We just went out to the gun range and just waited there for days, and just everybody that came along just said, hey, will you just shoot a 1 MOA group with your rifle? And we saw in those videos how for the average shooter and the average gun, that's actually a very tall order. And so where the marketing from these companies wants us all to believe that you know, everything is shooting 1 MOA, the truth is the average shooter is really not getting that very often. Now, more experienced shooters who have tried tons of different ammo, they've done the load development and everything, they can do it all the time. But for your average shooter, it's tough. Anyway, okay, I digress. So let's look at the accuracy. 6 groups, all of them are under 1 MOA. Remember, it took us 5 days to find somebody to do that. 6 groups in a row, all sub MOA. We shot the Hornady match at 0.4 inches and 0.49 inches, both of them under half MOA. Then we went to the Precision Hunter, and the Precision Hunter is shooting about 3/4 minute, about 0.8 and 0.85. And then we shot the Federal Premium. The first group was great, 0.7. The second one is just right at 1 MOA, 1.04. Very impressive results. When I see a gun that is not at all ammo picky, you just throw anything at it and it shoots well, that tells me that you know, we have one load that can already shoot half minute. Once we do some load development, I think we can shoot very consistently half minute, and maybe we get to that 1/4 minute accuracy with a gun like this. That's my hope when we do some load development. But even if you're just shooting factory ammo, it shoots everything well. That's going to save you a ton of money to not have to buy 5 $60 boxes of ammo of different ones to see what it likes. Very, very impressive. We have lots more tests coming up with this thing, but before we get there, I want to tell you 3 shocking statistics that are kind of demoralizing. If you have a family of 4, your cost of just living, just food and stuff, has gone up $11,000 just in 18 months. Plus, the money in your wallet has gone down 24% in its buying power, and the US national debt is increasing by $1 trillion every 100 days. With that much money printing, it puts our family finances right in the crosshairs. That's why Lear Capital is helping people to get out of that system by investing in gold and silver. But there's so much you can do. You can invest with an IRA that you already have. You can put it in gold and silver as a hedge against inflation. So check out learbackfire.com or call the number here. They're great with education and can walk you through the whole process, and you can make a decision if it's right for you. That's learbackfire.com. If you are an eagle-eyed viewer, you notice that we have topped this with a very interesting hot scope. This is the brand new, just hitting the market, Leupold Mark IV HD. This one happens to be the 6-24 by 52. So these are 4 times magnification scopes, which generally means you're going to get a little bit better sharpness and stuff on both ends. Usually when you're going to a super zoom, like a 6 times zoom, it's just a little bit murkier of an image, especially at the long end, but sometimes at the short as well. This one's a 6-24. That usually wouldn't be my preference for hunting. They have a, what is it, a 4.5 to 18 that I think would be my preference for this scope. But I love so much about this. It's taking a lot of the DNA from the Mark V HD, more expensive, and bringing it into a more approachable level, but it is a premium scope for sure. Let me show you what I love about this thing. It's this right here. We haven't zeroed this turret, so I don't want to mess it up. But this button right here keeps it locked, so you can't turn the scope at all. And then when you just naturally reach up to the turret and you press that button, then you can turn it. Usually, long-range scopes today have a adjustable top turret for the vertical, and then the horizontal turret is usually a capped turret, so it has a cap over it that you have to take off in order to zero your scope. This one's different. This has, again, that button and an adjustable turret on the side. Now generally I don't want my horizontal turret I usually prefer it to be capped, because I'm not going to mess with it. If there's wind, I'm going to hold over with my crosshairs to adjust for it, because the wind changes so quickly that I generally don't have time to dial it, get back in the gun, and have it be the same wind. This, however, is a beautiful system. On every Backfire review, you know what we always say, if a gun doesn't feed, it doesn't go hunting. We've just seen too many hunts ruined when you're getting close to the animal and you have to slowly move your bolt forward to chamber a shell, and it gets gummed up if you're moving slow. You know, you have to run it hard. Or one that, you know, you have an opportunity for a follow-up shot, but you got gummed up and you couldn't get it in there. A gun has to feed flawlessly. So we've already done the feeding gauntlet on it. It is flawless, but I want to show you a few things that just make this exceptional. So first of all, of course, from the magazine, you're going to have no trouble. The cool thing about this is they're actually engineering each magazine for the cartridge they have. One thing that a lot of people complain about Sacco and Tikka and Beretta, for that matter, is they're incredibly engineered so well, but that family of companies just moves so slowly. You know, 7PRC, they're not going to be the first ones to jump on it. And this is kind of why. It's because for each cartridge, they're manufacturing a different magazine to work perfectly for that cartridge, so it feeds right. And an example, this is a 6.5 PRC. Well, reloaders know the problem with a 6.5 PRC is often that the max length from the head all the way to the tip is 2.955 inches case overall length. And a lot of magazines are 2.96 inches. And by having just that, you know, 0.05 inches of distance between the two, it means a reloader doesn't have a lot of leeway in how far they can seat that bullet out. They use one action length that they're adjusting with different bolt stops, and then a proprietary magazine, so every cartridge is going to feed well. You really give them props for that. And when you're feeding from the magazine or single, it picks up the cartridge so smoothly that, I mean, you can barely feel that thing. And look how slowly I moved that in. Usually you have to run an action hard to get it to work well. This one, even if you're just slowly slipping it in, is just so smooth. When I look at guns, now that I've spent a little bit of time around the industry and start to know kind of where companies are getting the stock and the barrel and the action from on everything, in my head, I'm doing the math, right? I'm saying, what's that action really worth? Is that a cheap $200 piece that they're getting mass produced and then screwing on a cheap barrel from it and a plastic stock and calling it an $800 gun? You look at this and this gun around $1,400, but this action, I mean, you could pay that just for a custom nice action like this. Just for that, like, it's so nice how smooth this action is. And then you have a cold hammer forged barrel that has exceptional accuracy. You have a polymer stock, but that has some actual engineering and some uniqueness to it. Plus it has an aluminum chassis inside it and a very premium trigger. And you just say, I don't know how they offer it for that price. That's just an exceptional offering because they've engineered every single piece. So other things that guns will often struggle with, you know, let's say you're laying prone, you tip the gun sideways to load a cartridge and no problem at all loading it. You could do this thing upside down in the mud and it's going to load well. In fact, that's a decent idea, Garrett. We had a recent hunt that I had a rifle on that was feeding great until it got some dirt in it. Let's see how this thing does with some weather. I can't remember what gun that was. It was just Mountain Reaper. Oh, it was the Mountain Reaper, which I love that gun. But man, when it got some dirt on that action, it was unusable. This thing, we've really dirted up in there. And it is just running. That's why you want a smooth action. I don't really care so much that something feels a tiny bit better in the store. I care that it feels so good when it's clean so that when it gets crap on it, it still runs well. Very impressive. So what is this gun and why did I say it's been so overlooked? Well, first why it's been so overlooked. It weighs a little bit more than most hunting rifles in this class. It's around 7.9 pounds, depending on what configuration of barrel length and cartridge you pick. That's why I initially overlooked this gun. That's why I never got one, because I wanted the lightest weight hunting rifles. And then we actually got some of the lightest weight hunting rifles. You know, we shot your Kimber mount in a sense, and some of the Howa 1500 configurations that are just incredibly lightweight and can certainly have utility when you're going on a sheep hunt or something like that. But none of them quite performed what I want to see in a gun that just shoots well. You know, a gun with a tiny, tiny little pencil barrel, your second shot is kicking out your third shot because that barrel just heats up so fast. And so I found myself kind of gravitating towards rifles with just a little bit more meat, and I found that almost universally, they just shot more consistently. And so that's why when we came by this Sako this last week, it just made such an impression on us because we thought, now that we weren't worried about the weight so much, I mean, 1.5 pounds, it's like a loaf of bread difference between this gun and some of the others in terms of weight. But it has so many features that you don't recognize maybe when you first see it. First, it has QD flush cups, which I'm just so happy about. I do wish I had a Picatinny rail here, a little bit more solid of an attachment point, but that's all right. But the interesting thing is, under the polymer of this stock is an aluminum chassis that comes all through here to have a rigid end. It comes underneath, and so you're not shooting on a flimsy plastic stock. You're shooting off aluminum that's touching the action. But you have the price savings of the polymer exterior. It has adjustable comb and adjustable length of pole with spacers. Also, the action, most actions like a Remington 700 style are rounded on the bottom. And that creates a lot of problems for getting a good solid connection between the action and the stock or chassis. This has a V block, has V-shaped at the bottom, and so the action is more solidly in there. Plus, you have 3 action screws to attach the action to the stock and chassis. And so it's just so rigid to begin with. Plus, you have an integrated Picatinny rail, which I think is really the way we need to go. By having that integrated into the chassis, we just eliminate one failure point. You know, I hate the thought of having great rings and then the screws attaching the Picatinny rail to the action could come loose over time. You're starting to have accuracy problems and you can't even see why, because those screws are hidden under the scope. So I love seeing that integrated. Sako has the TRG, which is a well-recognized and extremely successful sniper rifle in military applications, and you see a lot of that DNA coming here with just a extremely overbuilt system to just make this thing shoot reliably, to make sure it is rock solid. And so where you see a lot of plastic fantastic junk, this is one that if you don't realize what you're looking at, you could pass it up like I have for years until you realize what a marvel of engineering this thing actually is. Plus, you have a trigger that's adjustable, sub 2 pounds, very, very nice trigger. It's rare that I see a company make their own trigger, not just, you know, use a trigger tech or something and get it right. And they've really got that trigger right. There are 2 stocks available. This one is the Hunter stock with the thumb hole. I love the thumb hole. It just feels so good to shoot. Be aware when you're shooting a thumb hole style stock, the recoil is gonna push left every time. If you're right-handed, just by where your hand is, it's gonna push, you know, you're gonna shoot and you're gonna find your crosshairs to the left of your target afterward. But you also get that hand in there so it's soaking up some of the recoil and not pushing you off quite as much, and you know where you're gonna be. So I like a thumb hole stock for sure. But there is also the precision stock that has some M-lock here, and you can change fore ends and rear. It's a very modular design. That is what got me excited about the Sako S20. Plus, some of you really like having that 3-position safety that you can unlock the bolt while it's still unsafe. I mean, this is fine finish engineering. That is what got me excited about this gun. I really hate doing a review that's just gushing because it makes it look like you're probably sold out. Just for the record, we did buy this gun with our own money, got absolutely nothing from Sako, and we literally sat here for 10 minutes, Garrett and I. Garrett, put the camera on yourself. Garrett's been in a few videos recently and everybody's like, who is that guy? Garrett's our videographer.
I'm the cameraman.
He's here. So that's who I'm talking to. We sat here for 10 minutes and we were like, okay, we've got to have some negatives to bring up. And if I were to say them, I mean, it's a loaf of bread, £1.5 heavier than many other rifles, which in a lot of cartridges, if you're going to buy a 300 Win Mag, something like that, it's a perfect platform for it. Also, this 6.5 PRC, you don't need a muzzle brake or even a suppressor. Would be nice, but you don't have to have that for it to shoot calmly, to have it shoot well. Other than that, you know, the weight, it'd be nice to have some Picatinny up here instead of a sling swivel stud, but you can get the precision stock that will allow for that. There's just nothing to complain about. I have to admit it, the Sako S20 has far exceeded my expectations, and it's probably one of my favorites that I've ever reviewed.